Greetings, Wambui Bahati here. Welcome to Wambui Made It. Today we're going to be making a fabric bowl. I want to show you some of the bowls. Well, this is the one that we're going to make today. This one here because it goes very quickly, but it will let you know what you need and how it all goes together. And so then you'll be able to make various bowls once you get the idea of how the bowls are made. Here's a bigger one right here. Okay. And then here's a bowl here with some handles. Okay, right there. And then we have a little baby bowl right here. Okay. Now, the inspiration for my bowl making came from this book right here called It's a Wrap. This is a book called It's a Wrap by Susan Breier. And I don't know if I said that right or not, but it's spelled Breier. And this is a beautiful book. Even if you don't ever make a bowl, I think just having this book around is just so wonderful because the pictures are amazing and the artwork, her bowls can be really fancy. And so what I want to show you today is just how you can get started. And once you see what I'm doing, it's going to be very easy for you to go back to this book and just make all kinds of, well, she has some purses actually too. And there are just so many things that you can make once you know the technique. So I have taken the inspiration from her, and I have made how I make my bowls my own. But basically, it boils down to the technique with the zigzag sewing machine. So the two things that you do need in order to make the fabric bowls are you're going to need a machine that does a zigzag stitch, and you're going to be able to use your hands very well because we are going to be wrapping some fabric around a clothesline rope, 100% cotton clothesline rope. And so you need to have a very good use of your hands, otherwise it can be very tedious. So those are the two things that are important in making the bowls. So I'm going to get started right now. I'm going to show you what you need to make fabric bowls, and then I'm going to walk you through the process, okay? These are the things that you're going to need in order to make your fabric bowl. Now, wait. Don't walk away. Don't turn away. I know it looks like a lot is going on here, but believe me, there are very few things that you need in order to make the bowl. What I have going in here, I have some repeats, some doubles, and then depending on the fabric that you use, you may want to use certain tools as opposed to other tools. But really, you're going to see that it's really just a few things and how easy and fun to make the bowls are going to be. Okay, so the first thing and the main thing is that you need some clothesline rope. You want 100% cotton, and you want it to be 3/16 of an inch in diameter. 3/16 of an inch in diameter, and you want it to be 100% cotton. So in this package right here, there were 100 feet of clothesline rope. Now we're not going to need that much. In fact, what we want is we want to have 22 feet of clothesline rope, 22 feet. So you can probably find a package with 25 feet. That will suffice for the project that we're going to do. But they do come in all lengths, 100 feet, 50 feet, 75 feet. So we're going to be using about 22 feet. So that's what you're going to need. Or if you have a lot of rope, and perhaps you're thinking of doing some other projects, then you want to just measure off about 22 feet for the project that we're going to do. The next thing that we're going to need is some fabric, because the idea is that we are going to wrap that rope with fabric, okay, like this. This is what we're going for, okay, in order to make our bowls. So what I have here to show you, the strips that we're going to be using are going to be 1 1/4 inch wide. Now they don't have to be precise. You don't have to measure them. You can eyeball the cutting, but we want about 1 1/4 inch width strips. Now I have found that the best way to get 1 1/4 inch strips in a very quick way is to buy what they call the quilter's jelly rolls. Now this jelly roll is kind of smushed up because it's been opened a long time, but in the quilting stores and some of the crafting stores you might find jelly rolls, and they're usually fabrics that blend together or complement each other. They're different colors within the jelly roll, but they all kind of blend together, and you don't have to think about what's going to match with what. But the jelly roll usually looks something like that. That's why they call it a jelly roll. And the strips in the jelly roll are 2 1/2 inches wide, and so they are pre-cut. They come pre-cut, and sometimes I still call it a jelly roll, but they're flat. And so they come pre-cut in a flat package, and these are also 2 1/2 inch wide strips that quilters use. So for the project that I'm doing today, the fabric bowls, I always like to use the jelly rolls or the flat pre-cut 2 1/2 inch strips because it just makes it so much easier to get the 1 1/4 inch strips that we need. However, if you have some fabric that you just love and that you want to use, or you don't have the jelly rolls, you can use any fabric. You're going to need about a yard to be safe for the project that we're going to do. And I'm going to show you how to cut this fabric. And for cutting that, you may need a mat. If you're going to be cutting your own fabric from scratch, you probably need a rotary cutter and a ruler and a mat if you're going to be using that. And we're also going to need a few straight pins along the way. We're going to need some scissors, and we're going to need some fabric glue. Now I have here the Aleene's permanent fabric glue, which I have used, and I've had great success with that. And recently I have started using the tacky glue here. So I'm probably going to be going back and forth, but a fabric glue. So you see, really, that's all we need. And now I'm going to talk to you about how to cut your fabric. If you're going to be using the pre-cut strips to get your 1 1/4 inch strip, then the reason why I find them so easy is you just take a strip and you're just going to fold it in on itself and make sure that it's pretty evened up. And then you're just going to take some scissors and you're just going to eyeball it, and you're going to cut down the center here. Okay, so we're just going to cut down the center. And voila, we have 2 1 1/4 inch strips, just that fast. So that's why I like using the pre-cut fabric. Now, if you do want to use your own fabric or some fabric that you have that is not pre-cut, then the way you would do that, and you're going to need, like I said, about a yard to be safe for the project that we're going to do. And you're going to still eyeball it. You don't have to iron the fabric. You just need to have it in workable condition because we're going to be wrapping this fabric around that rope. Okay, so if you would take your fabric and fold it in a way that is good, comfortable for you to work with. And then you would take a ruler and a rotary cutter. Although you could use scissors. If you don't have a rotary cutter, you can use scissors, but a rotary cutter. And what you're going to do is you're just going to eyeball it 1 1/4, 1 1/4 inch. Okay, and now we have strips. We have 1 1/4 inch wide strips. And so that's how you would cut your strips if you are using a fabric that is not pre-cut. I cut about 20 strips. You can start with about 20 strips. You don't have to go cutting a whole bunch of strips because that's something that you can always go back and do more if you see you're going to need more. But sometimes I have made the mistake of just cutting strips, and I didn't need all those strips, but now I can't do anything else with that fabric because it's cut up into strips. So start with about 20 or so strips and see how that goes for you. And like I said, you can always stop and cut more strips. I have my 22 feet of rope right here. I have a bunch of cut strips right here, and I have my glue. And between the stick and this wet glue, I'm going to go with the permanent glue right here as opposed to the tacky glue. The permanent glue, this wet glue, is messier, but it gets the job done. So I'm just going to stick with this. So you can try them and see which one works best for you, but we are going to be sticking these strips to this rope, and I'm going to recommend this glue, the permanent glue, okay, the wet glue. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to take the end of your rope, one end of your rope, and you want to go to any strip, and you're going to cut off about 4 inches, maybe 3 or 4, 5 at the most, but just would cut off a little piece like that. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put some glue on one end, and this glue is going to go in about 1 inch into the fabric. Okay, so we are going to glue that all up right there, because what we want to do is we're going to take this rope about 1 inch in, okay, and we're going to roll this over. So we're going to fold this so that it's rolled. We're going to roll it so that it sticks on itself, and so that that rope is glued to this end of this strip right here, this little baby strip. Okay? Okay, once we've done that, we're going to get a strip, any strip, and we're going to put glue on it. Now you can cut your selvages off if you desire. I'm just going to work with the selvages on. And so what I'm going to do is take the glue, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to glue here about 1 inch in, get it all glued up. And then what we're going to do with this piece is what we want to do now is we want to start wrapping the rope. So we want to come up here at the end, and we want to start, and the idea is that we're going to be going on a diagonal, right? We're going to be going on a diagonal because what we want to do is travel as we wrap. So we just don't want to stay in one spot. We want to travel down the rope. All right, so we're going to be going on an angle to do that, meaning that our wraps are not necessarily going to be smooth. We just want them, the main thing is to be snug. We want the wraps to be snug to the rope. So we're going to just keep going like this. And every 5 or 6 inches, what we want to do is we want to stop and add some more glue. So about every 5 or 6 inches. Okay, so we're going to stop right now, and we're going to add some glue. Again, just right here, right next, because we just want to make sure this hugs that rope. All right, and then we're just going to go in there, and we're going to continue to wrap. And this is what we're going to be doing until we have wrapped this rope with strips. So we're just going to keep wrapping and going on a diagonal, moving the rope, moving the fabric along the rope. Again, hugging it, pulling it as tight as you can so that it really hugs the rope, okay? And we're just going to keep going on this diagonal. Basically what we're doing now, this is what we're going to do until we have our 22 feet wrapped. All right, so just keep wrapping, and then again, every 5 or 6 inches, we're going to stop, put it down, add some glue. All right, see? All right, and now we're gonna wrap it around and keep it going. And keep it going and travel the rope. So we should have something that looks like this. Okay, so we're just gonna keep traveling on a diagonal so that we're covering our rope. Okay, and about every 5 or 6 inches, we're gonna stop, add some glue, okay. All right, so let me just bring you in a little bit. Okay, so here you see I added that glue, and I'm going to take that glue and I'm going to wrap it around there as tight as I can, and we're going to keep it going. So we're just going to keep going on a diagonal, here. And we are covering our rope. All right. Okay. I'm going to stop right here, add some glue. All right, so I'm going to stop right here, take my glue, and I'm going to put the glue right here so that it, all right. And then we're going to take this and pull it tight and continue on the diagonal. Okay. All right, so we're going to do this until we get to the end of this strip. So we're going to go on the diagonal. Just want to make sure the whole rope is covered and no holes in it, no spaces. All right, so we've come to the end of this strip right here. So what we're going to do is pull it tight, and we're going to roll it, put some glue in there. All right, and then we're going to roll this in on itself. And yeah, this glue is messier, but I think it works better. Okay, so now, okay, we have done one strip. All right, so now once we've done this one strip, we're going to get our second strip. I'm going to use this color right here. There is no rhyme or reason for your color. I'm going to take this and I'm going to place it right here like this, because I'm going to get ready to go on a diagonal. So I placed it on a diagonal. I'm going to put some glue here. Some glue here. All right, and then I'm going to wrap it in on around on itself. Okay. And don't worry about the fray ends. for here. All that's going to be all good. And just the main thing to focus on is pulling the fabric pretty tight around the rope and making sure there are no spaces, that you're covering all of the rope. And this is what we're going to do as you run out, just like we did before. As you run out of a strip, you're just going to put some glue, line it up on the diagonal, and then continue down your rope. I'm going to stop and add some glue right now to this one. Okay. Okay, so you're just going to keep doing this. So if somebody rings your doorbell, or you remember there's something you need to do, or answer the phone, or make a phone call, then what you can do is, that's where your straight pins are going to come in to help. Because what you can do when you're ready to stop or take a break or rest, just put a straight pin in there to hold your fabric in place until you get back. Okay, so we're just going to keep going. And all right. Okay, I'm going to put some glue here. Okay. And I just want to interject right here about how this all ends. So just as we started in the beginning and we had this little piece, we attached this little piece without the rope starts inside the piece. That's what we want to do at the end. We don't want to do a separate piece, but what we do want is, we want to try to make sure that we have about 6 inches or more, no less than 6 inches at the end when we do all of our wrapping and we finish our wrapping. And it should look something like this, where we've finished our wrapping, we've added our last glue right here, and then we have something like this. It doesn't have to be this long, but at least, I'm going to say at least 5-6 inches we want hanging over the rope. So whatever you have to do to make that happen, then be sure to do that. We want to have at least 5 inches, when we do our last glue, add our last glue, and we've wrapped the whole rope. We want to have at least 5 inches over the rope. Okay, so just wanted to let you know that, so that you didn't go ahead, do the whole thing, and perhaps cut it off or in just along with the rope. Okay, we want 5 inches past the rope when we get to the end. And I'm going to do this until I've done the length of my rope, and that's what I want you to do. And then we'll meet back here once we have our rope fully covered. Okay, I'm just about finished with wrapping this rope. I have that much rope left, and I'm coming in on it. I'm going to put some glue down there to make sure it stays, and I'm going to wrap it. Okay, and wrap it. And now I have wrapped the whole length of the rope, and I have this amount of fabric left over, so it should look something like that. And to help this last part dry, I'm just going to go ahead and put a pin in it and let it dry. Okay, but this is what we want. We want about at least 5 inches left over like this. So this is the end. So where's the beginning? This is the beginning where we added that piece to it, and this is the end. We didn't add the piece, but we just made sure that it extended past where the rope stopped. Okay, so now we're ready to start building our bowl. We're getting ready to build our bowl. We're going to go to the beginning, that little piece that we added on. And what we're going to do really is we're going to go ahead and cut that piece until it's about 1.5 inches, maybe 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Okay, so just go ahead and cut that off. Eyeball it, 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in on itself and actually twist it here. Okay, so we're just going to twist this. So this is our rope starting here. We're going to twist it. Okay, so what did we just do? We cut off that extra fabric. We cut it down to about 1 inch, at the most 1.5 inches. And then we're going to take that extra fabric and we're going to twist it. We're going to twist it. And then once we've twisted it, we're going to start rolling it in on itself. So we're going to twist and then we're going to roll it in on itself, and we're going to go down to where the rope is and we're going to spiral it, spiral everything, keep rolling it in on itself. According to how much glue you may have used, it may be a little stiff to roll, to get it to bend, but just go for it and it will bend. And you're going to roll until you have something that looks like this, like maybe a snail perhaps, or if you're a foodie, it'll look like a honey bun. But we don't want to have any spaces in there. We want it rolled in on itself. Okay, and so we have something that looks like that. Now to hold it, we're going to take some straight pins and put it through the outer layer just into the inner to just hold it in place. But we don't want any spaces. Okay, and we're going to do the same over here. We're going to take a pin and we're going to hold the outer into the inner layer. Okay. All right, and we have something that looks like that. Okay. We have this little spiral and we're getting ready to go to the sewing machine and build our bowl. Now we are done with the glue. So if you're somebody who's messy with the glue like me, you can go ahead and clean your hands and put the glue away. We're done with the glue. We're going to be doing sewing on the sewing machine from now on. So when we go to the sewing machine with our spiral, what we're going to do is we're going to make an X. We're going to sew with a straight stitch. We're going to sew an X by making a straight line through this, and we're going to go through all these layers, and then we're going to make another X over here. We may make even an extra X. What we want to do is this is going to be the bottom and the center and the bottom of our bowl, and what we want to do is to join this little spiral together as best we can. Once we have this little center section together, then we're going to start with the zigzag stitches and we're going to start building the rounds as we go. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to the sewing machine right now. I'm at the sewing machine with my little spirally, I'll call it a snail, which is the center and beginning of our bowl bottom. And what we want to do, as I just said previously, is we're going to make at least 2 straight stitches. Our machine now is on the straight stitch, and we're going to go make some straight stitches to hold this together. So we're going to go from this end up here. So we're just going to put this underneath and catch that and come across. We're going to come across here. And there's a lot of layers, but we're going to just keep going here. Okay, and we're going to come right on off. And then we're going to disengage. And then we want to make a stitch going in the opposite direction. So we have that stitch. So now we're going to make one coming down here. All right, so we're just going to start at the end there. And we're just going to come straight across. Okay, I think I'm going to move this pin now. I can do that. Okay, so let's go. Just go straight across. And you're going to come right off. And off. And disengage. Okay, and actually, I think we're pretty good. I don't think I need another stitch. Well, I'll move this and I'll just do another stitch because we can. So I'm going to do a stitch going through here again, just starting on the edge and just coming straight across. And just keep going until we come right off. All right, disengage. All right, so now we have solidified our bowl center. Now that we have solidified that little beginning right there, you want to now go ahead and set your machine on the zigzag stitch. If you have a very narrow zigzag stitch, then you want to widen that zigzag stitch just a little bit, because what you want to be able to do is we're going to do a zigzag, and as we go along, we want to be able to grab this side, this side, this side, this side, this side, this side. That's what we're going to be doing with the zigzag stitch. So if yours is very narrow, you may want to widen it just a little bit so that we can more easily catch both sides as we do our zigzag, okay? So put it on zigzag. Once you have it on zigzag, now we're ready to go. Now the other thing to keep in mind is the rope. You want the rope in the end that's extending out where the rope is coming from. You want that to be on your right. You want that to be underneath the machine here, because as we start to make our bowl bigger and bigger, we're going to want the outside. We're going to need the outside for this room that's over here. So you want the rope to be coming in from the inside of the machine, and we're going to use this side as we start to build our bowl, okay? So with all of that said, what we're going to do now is we're going to place this. We're going to place this so that our needle, once we've set it into zigzag, we want to place it so that the center of our foot is right on between these two layers. Okay, we got the rope that we're going to be winding it in, but we want the zigzag to catch here and catch this one, and we want it tight. Okay, if we can avoid any spaces, that's going to be great. So we want the middle of our presser foot to be right in the middle of the rope that we're wrapping around and the rope that we are wrapping. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. Okay. And now what you're going to do is you're going to turn it at the same time with your other hand. As it gets a little larger, it's going to be a lot easier. So you're going to turn, and what you're doing is we're growing the base of our bowl by twirling, adding rope on the outside, and we're doing that with the zigzag stitch. Now I'm using black thread because I thought it would make it easier for you to see. All right, so we're just going to keep twirling, and we're going to keep adding rope to our circle, and that's how we're going to make the bottom of our rope bigger. Like I said, once you get a little bigger disc, it's going to be a lot easier to maneuver. But right now, you really want to follow in between the circle and the rope that we are adding to the circle. Okay, and the zigzag is picking up one side and then the other, and that is how, and we don't want any spaces, so you're gonna twirl it while keeping it tight and letting the zigzag do its thing. Now I'm gonna stop for a minute just so we can compare notes. Okay, let me just go right here. Okay, now the secret to a great bowl is to not stop, but I'm going to stop for a minute just so you can see what it should be looking like. Okay, so I'm going to disengage right here. I'm going to take this out. Okay, so this is what we have. All right, so you see how the zigzag stitches are catching between the rows and kind of fastening the rope to itself. All right, so that's what we're going to go. We're going to go for a little while to make a wider flat bottom, and then we're going to start building the sides. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go right back where I left off. Go right in here. Have the middle of your presser foot right in here. Okay. All right, so we're going to start where we left off. We're going to keep going with this bottom until we have a diameter of approximately 5 inches. Okay, we're at our 5 inches. We have a 5-inch diameter circle here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start building the sides. So the way we're going to build the sides is we're going to keep the machine and everything set just the way it is. And what we're going to do with the rest of our rope is we're going to angle this bottom. We're going to just lift it up slightly, and so that we can start building the sides. So we're going to lift this up slightly, but we're still going to hold this. But now our bottom, we're going to be holding on an angle, but we're still going to be doing that same zigzag stitch. So we're going to lift this up on an angle here, and we're going to continue. So as you go around, you're just going to keep angling this up. And I think that by now you're probably getting the idea that if you want to angle it so that it's kind of like straight up, almost like a cup, then you would just pull it up really, really, really high. But we're going to angle it gradually so that we have a bowl that just fills out gradually. And so we're just going to keep going and see what happens here. But as I think you can start to see, let's see if I can pull out a little bit so you can see. So the rope actually ended right about there. What we have now is that piece of fabric that we had out there. So what we're going to do is see which way it was going, and we're going to twist it. We're going to just twist this fabric. We're going to twist it and twist it and twist it and twist it. Okay, and what we're going to do with this fabric that we've twisted is we're going to continue to do the zigzag, and we're going to, like, this fabric is just going to run out because we've twisted it and there's no rope, so eventually it's going to become even with the bowl. That's what we want to happen. So twist it, twist it. Now what we want to do at the very end with this twisted fabric is we really want to catch that last row that we have of rope, and we want to be going on the outside of this fabric. So we're catching that last rope with our zigzag, but we want the zigzag to start going on the outside of this fabric. Okay, so it's going on the outside, and we're going to zigzag with the stitches going on the outside of the fabric until the fabric runs out. Okay, go a few more stitches. Let's stop, disengage. Let's see what we have. Okay, so that fabric ran out. What we're going to do is we're going to just cut off that little piece of fabric right there. This is our finished bowl. There is nothing else left to do to the bowl except use it. Now you can go in with some scissors if you see a lot of really long or extra long strings from the fabric and or the thread, and you can just snip them. Otherwise, the bowl is complete. And now we have finished our beautiful fabric bowl. If you enjoyed that, and now that you have a better idea of the technique of using your zigzag machine in order to make fabric bowls, I do recommend that you might want to pick up this book, It's a Wrap, and try out some of the many beautiful products. Look how beautiful everything is in this book. The beautiful products that are in this book, bowls, purses, and even showing you how to decorate them to make them even more beautiful. So it's a wrap. And with that, I'm going to say it's a wrap. See you next time.